What's going on, everybody? This is Psychic MMA with my first video, and today I'm going to be discussing dream matchups in the UFC. Listen, everyone has dream matchups they'd love to see, and these are three of my most anticipated future fights that do have a decent chance of happening, some a greater chance than others for sure. So, the UFC has been on a great run recently, as everyone knows, with 299, 298, and 300. This is one of the greatest three-run fight cards in UFC history. There are some intriguing fights to be made, and I'll be discussing them today. So first up, Ilia Topuria versus Sean O'Malley. So this is an extremely fun, stylistic matchup. They're two of the greatest strikers in the UFC right now, and neither of them have ever been beaten in a strike-for-strike battle. Neither, or even beaten at all for that case, if you don't want to count Sean's loss to Cheeto, because as we all saw at 299, that was a fluke. So, the styles, a taller O'Malley could give Ilia problems like with a head kicks like Jai Herbert did in their fight. Topuria is a shorter guy, so can he close the distance and get inside the pocket with O'Malley where he loves to work? The winner of this fight will also be the next big superstar of the sport, and both these guys already have pretty big followings at a very young age, and they're really the only two young guys I can think of that have superstar potential in the UFC. No one else in the UFC has this type of potential. They need a new superstar. Despite Conor McGregor's return, he's just not going to be around much longer, and lots of their champs now just aren't stars, such as Leon, Dricus, and Pantoja. They're never going to have star power. They're just not. Topuria's grappling also plays into this fight, because I don't know if he's going to try to strike with Sean the entire time, but if he's losing in the striking, he can go to the grappling. We'll see if his ego allows him to do so. I honestly don't think Topuria would try to grapple as a first resort because he thinks he's the better striker, and he very well could be, but that plays into it a great amount. And I can't see either one of these guys being knocked out, which makes it just that much more exciting. Like, imagine Ilia Topuria laying unconscious, or Sean O'Malley with his superstar aura laying on the ground after being KO'd by Ilia Topuria. So the next fight I want to see is Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. This probably has the least likely chance of ever happening just because Jones doesn't want to fight Aspinall. He knows what's going to happen. And this would be the absolute biggest test of Jon's career. Despite DC being a better fighter than Aspinall, the combination of Aspinall's size and Jones's old age does make this his hardest test. And if Jones did win, his legacy would never be surpassed ever by anyone in the sport. It's already a very good legacy that may never be passed, but this would absolutely cement it. And I'm curious to see if Jones's grappling would do anything against Tom. I mean, Jones is an excellent grappler, top 5 in the sport most likely, but I just don't know if he'd be able to control Tom, and I don't think he'd submit him on the ground, so I don't know how much that would do. And I don't think Jones would do well on the feet because he's not going to be able to KO Tom, and Tom can KO him. And they have pretty similar. Tom probably has better boxing, so Jones would have to keep range, but he poses no threat on the feet. His only chance would be to win a decision. And if Tom wins, it probably would be by knockout, which is just crazy to imagine. Jon Jones, the undefeated GOAT of the sport, laying on the ground unconscious. That would be a iconic moment in the sport. And best of all, this would finally advance this shit heavyweight division, which is just being held up by Jones's inactivity and injury. And Tom is going to most likely defend his interim belt on UFC 304, and I think that's just ridiculous. I mean, defending an interim belt's crazy. That's not how it's supposed to work, and Jon should either just retire or man up and try to fight Aspinall. So the final dream matchup that I would love to see is this champ versus champ fight of Islam Makhachev versus Leon Edwards. They're both very well-rounded fighters, which makes it very exciting. You know, both amazing strikers and grapplers. Leon has underrated grappling and Islam has underrated striking. The real question, I think, is can Islam strike with Leon and can Leon grapple with Islam? You know, Leon is primarily a striker and Islam is primarily a grappler. I do think Islam could take Leon down, but I don't know if he can hold down a bigger guy. And I don't know if Leon would be able to dominate Islam on the feet. I really don't think he would. But Leon was able to stuff Usman and Colby's takedown, so he could be able to stuff Islam's. Islam is a much better control wrestler on the ground. He can control you, and he poses a submission threat. Colby and Usman never had a submission threat at all in their game. So that would be a very interesting battle of styles. And a Dagestani would finally be moving up in Islam Makhachev. You know, they get a lot of hate, Habib and Islam, saying they're weight bullies. I mean, I personally don't think they're weight bullies. If you make weight, you make weight. That's your weight class. You know, it's hard to make weight. You get rewarded. But we can finally see how a Dagestani guy does do against a bigger guy who is more their size. Will their style of grappling hold up against a bigger opponent like Leon Edwards? I don't know. I think it would. I personally would favor Islam to win this one because I don't think Leon would KO Islam. You know, the best finishing threat in this fight is Islam on the ground. I could see Leon squeaking out a decision, just keeping range and winning 48-47 or something like that. But I would favor Islam. All right, so there you have it, boys. Those are my 3 most anticipated fights the UFC can make, and hopefully we see some of those in the future. Peace.